Ready?
Wait, I thought you were gonna like ask us like a question.
I
And
am.
then we talk.
After you talk.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Ready?
No, but go ahead. So basically, in this excerpt, at this point, Obenze is like at an ultimate low in his life. Like he's like stressed out from all the experiences and the things that he's going through at the time, like his job and how he's not used to basically like basic.
Speak up a little bit, Leyah.
Okay. Um. So at this time, at this point in the excerpt, Obenze is like at the ultimate low in his life, and he encounters, like, okay, and he encounters his old friends from high school, and as the dialogue goes on, they talk about how dang, I forgot his name, but how one of their old classmates went to America for schooling, and how he talks about like, and he talks about how how he thinks he's just so smart because like he reads books, and how he went off to America, but his friend discusses that he states he states that he can read as many books as he wants, but still he's still like the same person, and that talk basically talks about how like people's identity is transient, and how someone can think they're better just because they have more education, or because they basically are living the lifestyle that others want to live, but by like going to America. However, they tend to change themselves when they come back, and they would be considered an Americana. So, and in addition to that, this also reflects back to how this also reflects back to how um, this also this also reflects back to how like education is seen more valuable in other countries as it's seen here in America, even though we have like most of like the resources and stuff, and that can reflect back to how most of the people in the text wanted to go to America to further their education and be seen as successful. Also, and then to be seen as successful, and in that process, they tend to change their ways and change themselves to the way that America sees them, and how America wants them to be, like basically how like white people want them to be, because in America they're still seen as like the minority, and they're put into like in America, like they're put into like immigrants. Okay, I'm off topic. Scratch that. And so when so basically that part of it, I'm sorry. So basically that was like a good example of how Basically, that was a good example of how, and how people can change themselves and change their ways to be seen as something that they're not. And
Okay. So in your particular excerpt, there was a space where Chimamanda wrote, um, because the scenario you described was essentially that Obenze, who was at a very difficult place in his life, met up with some of his former Nigerian friends, and this is when he's in Europe. And Obenze is speaking to Coyote and Imanike, who have ascended to the level to which he desires to be. And, they've always had this dynamic where they kind of mock Emenike, and that hasn't changed, even though they've ventured into adulthood. And Obenze says something about him that you kind of brought up. He says that, Emenike is kind of walking around as if he is someone that he's not, which brings about the theme of perception versus reality. But what I want to focus on is when he says he can read all of the books he wants, but the bush is still in his blood. What is he suggesting or alluding to there?
I think that he's suggesting that even though like he's reading all these books, but he's still who he was, and like he's still like okay, I don't know, like even though he can read all these books and he can act like he's as educated as he wants to be, but deep down inside he's from the same place. Like they're all from the same town and country, and they basically all had the same opportunities. It's basically he's not better than the rest of them. That's basically what he's suggesting, because yeah.
Okay. And he also, his wife is kind of there because they're in a pub, and he kind of makes a joke about his wife. But Obense noted that he could tell from the muted on his tone that the mockery was colored by respect of what he believed, despite himself, to be inherently superior. So explore that dynamic. What is he suggesting? What is Obense suggesting about Emenike?
He's basically suggesting that Emenike is basically trying to make a life better for himself, or like in his mind, without okay. He's basically trying to suggest that Amanike is trying to see himself as better through his opportunities and through like and like as he suggests a comment about his wife, he basically Benze, he know like even though he notices that okay, I'm not making sense.
What is he suggesting through that comment? So his wife, he's like, she's not like us, she's not, and he's making it seem like he's making a joke of her, but Obenze notes immediately that the tone that he says it in is one that is essentially, the word she uses is a mockery. However, he knew that she was inherently superior despite himself.
He's basically suggesting that his wife is seen more superior than he is. So basically, the mockery was kind of like the reality.
So when you think about one of the major themes of this particular text, which is in fact racial dynamics, what are some ways in which this particular excerpt that you were assigned seeks to reinforce that notion that there is in fact a racial hierarchy?
Through because like it just reinforces like that white people are superior, and that if you're not white then you're wrong, or you're put into different areas where it suggests that you're lower than or like that you're the minority.
Okay.